Cool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm your host. My name is Q. I'm happy to be back. We are in obviously a new space. This is the Cool Hand Podcast studio. That was my phone that just fell. This is the Cool Hand Podcast studio, and I'm excited to have everybody back. If you've been rocking with the show, the Cool Hand Podcast, since 2019, I thank you. If you are a new viewer, I also thank you. I appreciate all the support that I can get, that I have, blah, blah, blah. But it is a new season. It's a new phase. Actually, I never really had seasons. I always just kept it going. So I would just call this a new phase. And with the Cool Hand Podcast, I've said this before, this all started off with a Blue Yeti microphone and a Google Chromebook, which is, I don't know, they be hyping it up to be like something else, but I don't like the Google Chromebook. The one we had, that was like a glorified smartphone. Like that, it was, it wasn't it. I'll tell you that now, it wasn't it. So welcome back. We've come a long way with the Cool Hand Podcast. And I say we because this was a collective effort with my homies like Devon and Samson, my lovely wife, Kayla. So it's been a team effort. And I thank everybody. So welcome back. Enough of that other stuff. With this episode, I'm going to get into things like inspiration, what inspires you, what inspires people to do what they do. But before that, I want to talk about some new things with the Cool Hand Podcast. What's new? Because with this new studio, with this new space, there's going to be a little bit of changes, and I have some things written down that I want to talk to everybody about. So first of all, I thank you, and I thank you for your patience. I don't know if like this was really on people's radar. I didn't have a lot of people hit me up like, yo, when is there going to be new episodes? So if you happen to be somebody who was waiting on this, thank you for your patience. Other than that, hi. So I want to keep things fresh. Right now, I feel like certain things that I'm going to continue to do, like the interviews, like music reviews, I don't think those things necessarily get old because we're always going to be talking about a different song, new music, or when it comes to interviews, we're going to have new guests on, and every guest has their own story, their own creative outlet. But I still want to switch some things up. Now, let's talk about some of the things that are going to be the same, some things that you're going to continue to get that you're familiar with from the earlier episodes and past phases of the Cool Hand Podcast. What are some of those things? Well, one of them is going to be the reviews, whether it's a music review or a concert review. We're also going to keep doing the interviewing people about their creative outlets, what they do, whether it's rapping, singing, art, poetry, even if it's a sport. If you're like, I follow one of my high school guys. He tried to get into the NFL, but now he's doing high school football. He's a coach. I think he's like a defensive back coach. So anybody with a journey, something they're passionate about, I want to talk about it. I want to learn about it because everybody has their own unique story. Okay. And also the vlogs. The vlogs are going to be something that's going to be a continuous thing, something that you're going to continue to see on the Cool Hand Podcast. But how about some of the newer things? And not newer as in, it's the most innovative thing, but one of the things when I first started the Cool Hand Podcast, my very first episode, which was called EAZY Archives, and that kind of encapsulated the entire Cool Hand Podcast and what I wanted to do with it. I talked about a concert, the music of the artists, and I related the music to a personal situation, something that was personal to me, something that had to do with my personal life. You can still watch that episode. It's on YouTube. It's the very first one. It's called EAZY Archives. You can hear the difference in quality and even my voice. I feel like my voice I was just like chilling, like, welcome to the Cool Hand Podcast. I don't know what I was on, but like to this day, that's still one of my favorite episodes, because that's what this podcast is about. So what you're going to get more is the real talk, like the real life experiences, and not just my life experiences, because I haven't done everything in the world. I haven't been through everything that a human could be through. So this is where you come in. This is where the guests come in. I put it out there to certain people that if they want to be on, they can be on. Some people will be invited to the Cool Hand Podcast studios. A select few will actually be invited, and I'm going to talk to them in person. I have a little space over here, which is not shown on camera, but I'm going to have more guests in the physical form, in person. I can talk to them. I have other mic stands. They can use them. They could be put to use, right? And I also, for the ones who are out of town or people who cannot make it to the Cool Hand Podcast studio, we're going to continue to do things online. We're going to keep doing it on Zoom or another platform that we can do some video chatting, and I can talk to people and get to know them through that. Now, another thing that I would like to incorporate in the Cool Hand Podcast, and kind of put myself out there a little bit, but also put the guests out there for my people who like fits and fit pics and stuff like that. Some of the people I follow on Instagram, they got me inspired to start doing like fit pics and getting, get back into, my fit pic bag. So what I'm starting a thing called pod fits. So, like the little joint I'm wearing today, like I'm gonna take a picture in it and I'm gonna put it on my story or post it, and it'll be the pod fit. And for the guests, whether either if you're online, if we're chatting via Zoom, show your fit. When you come to the podcast, you better come correct, and you better dress to impress. Not me. I guess yourself, but at the same time, you have the option to being on pod fits and your outfit being featured on the Cool Hand Podcast. All right. So we want to do pod fits as well. So, come dressed to impress, because this is the Cool Hand Podcast. We're turning this thing into something special. So, put yourself together, and we're going to get it together. So, another thing, speaking of clothes, and fits, let's talk about some sponsorships. Now, I'm not the biggest platform in the world. I'm very much aware of that. But at the same time, if you want to have your product, if you want to have something featured, if you have a clothing line, if you have anything that you would like to be promoted on the Cool Hand Podcast, hit me up. We can discuss it on the side. You can hit me up at coolhandpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Instagram at coolhandpod. And if you have something that you want to sponsor, talk to me. And if it's appropriate to be on the podcast, then we can figure that out. Speaking of which, I want to give a big shout out to the people at Volare Toro, which this is what I'm wearing right now, Volare Toro. And I want to give a shout out to this brand. Now, you can see this on my background here. Now, I have their clothes hung up right here. And this brand is the real deal. And this is off the strength right now. This is off the strength. This ain't, they ain't paid for this. This is off the strength, because I saw these brothers. It's two brothers who run this joint, and the quality of the clothes I just got in two shirts. There's this one that's kind of in the camera, this like powder blue one, or baby blue, whatever you want to call it, and the tan one. The quality of those two shirts, it's like hefty. Like, these aren't the shirts. This ain't no H&M quality. I'm gonna tell y'all this, because what's happening is you're gonna be seeing me wearing this brand a lot on the Cool Hand Podcast, because I rock with this brand, and I'm on my presidential stuff. I co-sign, I stamp, I rock with this brand. It's quality, it's fashionable, and even with this joint, I got the championship joint on right now. This is from last season. It says 2021 on it. But the fact that it has that vintage look and vintage feel to it, I'm gonna wear this forever. You have to look at quality, and if you can really see yourself wearing it. Volare Toro. That was very long winded. But at the same time, if you want me to gas up your brand like I did for these folks, hit me up in the DM. We could talk about it. Now, the last thing that I'm going to briefly talk about, something that's new, is donations. If you would like to donate to the Cool Hand Podcast, I'm not going to beg for money, but at the same time, if your heart compels you to donate to the Cool Hand Podcast, you can give monthly donations, and you can give, like, I think it's like 99 cents to $10 monthly donation. If you would like to give a one-time donation, I'll put my Venmo, Cash App, all that other good stuff in the bio of each video. And like I said, I'm not gonna beg people for money. If your heart compels you to do so, I do appreciate it. I do spend money on this stuff, and it takes time and money to produce these things for not only for everybody, but for myself. If I don't get a dime back from this, that's cool. But the option is now available if your warm heart ever so compels you. Now, I mentioned that this is a new phase. We got all the formalities out of the way, but let's get into the topic that I want to discuss today. I was sitting back and I was thinking about this podcast, and long story short, I want to talk about inspiration and what inspires you. And I have a couple of street interviews that I want to show you of two people, and they talk about what inspires their art. Now, the Cool Hand Podcast, we stood the test of time. I was just telling my wife this before I started setting up to record. I'm very proud of this because when I say we stood the test of time, in the sense of a lot of podcasts have come and go. Not in the sense of these big podcasts, even celebrities. You saw T.I. talking about, he had the Expeditiously podcast, and he said it was too much work and he wasn't getting enough money. He wasn't used to that, and he didn't like, reading off the advertisements and so on and so forth. Now, that's on like a celebrity stage, but more so in the local sphere that I'm in, this was no pandemic podcast. In the sense of I didn't come up with this during the pandemic. I wasn't bored and needed something to do, and I just started this. No, this started in 2019, and we went through the pandemic with it and came out of the well, we're still in the pandemic. I don't know if by definition we're still in it, but I'm just gonna say we're still in the pandemic. But I'm still here, and I didn't give up on it. Many people know that I'm a former undefeated battle rapper / rapper. And although I feel that's something that I am proficient at, that's not something that I pursue. You don't see me dropping records. This is something that I pursue. I pursue the podcast. And it made me think, like, I was rapping, for such a long time, but I never like really put in the work with it. But at the end of the day, I'm inspired to keep doing this. Like, having these records, you can't see all of them. Like, I'm like, okay, how are we going to do this studio room? Records in the background. We're going to have a little joint over here so people can see what's being advertised. Let's get a plant. I ain't never think about no plants before. This is still my wife's plant, by the way. I'm still borrowing it. Them fake plants is expensive. But I keep getting new ideas. At the end of the day, it's just me talking on a microphone, maybe thinking of a topic, interviewing somebody, but there's something about it that keeps me coming back. There's something about it that I like. It's rewarding to me. Let me tell you something. Somebody hit my car today. Somebody hit my car. I was down the street from where I live, and somebody hit my car. I was almost home, and somebody wanted to not mess up my day. Like, I'm coming home from, like, I went to work, went to the gym. I'm coming home. I'm ready to eat, take a shower, hit my car. But right now, I don't care about that. I'm going to call the insurance later. I'll do it. I'll do all that later and file the claim, blah, blah, blah. But I'm cool right now. I'm cool right now because I'm doing something that I like. So there's something about this that inspires me to keep going. Now, I want some participation. If you are watching this on YouTube, please let me know in the comments what inspires you. What inspires you to do what you do? What inspires you to keep going in whatever thing you do? Whether it's even if it's weightlifting, even if it's like weightlifting, if it's skating, if it's dancing, it doesn't necessarily have to be putting a pen to paper and writing lyrics or composing music or anything like that. What inspires you to keep doing something that you do? Even if it's living. You might have what inspires you to keep living. I don't know. But a couple months back, my friends and I went to we were just hanging out. We went and got some food. Some of the guys, we were hanging out, and we ended up in a part of Pittsburgh called Lawrenceville, and there happened to be some type of street art festival type thing going on, and we just started walking around, and it was toward the end of this little festival, and we're walking around checking out the art. Woo, just walking around. So thankfully I had my camera on me. I wasn't lacking, as they say. I had that thing with me. I backed that camera out, and I talked to a couple of artists, and it's always nice to get another perspective of somebody else that's not in your world, that you're not close to, and see how they feel about their art and what inspires them to do what they do. So I want to show you these videos. The first person we have, his name is Brendan Donovan, and he has some very interesting art, and it's inspired by some of the people that he works with. So let's check that out. How long have you been doing this?
Most of my life, to be honest. I work in mental health. I'm a therapist at Western Psychiatric Hospital. Mostly work with schizophrenia and psychosis. So I work with a lot of people whose ideas challenge the norm. I like my art to reflect that.
And what is your art inspired by?
Little things that pop into my head, and things that make me angry, and things that make me happy.
How long
so
does it take?
Each piece is a little different. Like this one lived on a sketch pad for a couple of years before it even moved to a canvas, and it took me a couple years going in and out to really find the inspiration with it each time. And then like the one with the mushrooms over there, that took about like a month in total, like when I had time. Some of the little ones just take a couple hours. It all depends on how fast the paint dries and how good the like inspiration's flowing.
It's interesting to see what people can come up with through their inspiration. So it's two different art styles, two different artists, and have two different reasons or motivations, inspirations, drives that make them do what they do. So shout out to both of y'all. Shout out to Gwendolyn Smith. Shout out to Brendan Donovan. And thank you for giving me the time of day. So once again, I present the question. What inspires you? This is the Cool Hand Podcast. Cool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with. We have some episodes coming out. There's some episodes coming out. This is just a little reintroduction to the people who maybe wanted to see a new episode, or this is your first time watching. I implore you to keep watching, and you can hit me up. Hit me up if you want to see something specific. If you have a suggestion, if you have a criticism, if you don't like my face, let me know. Don't let me know if you don't like my face. I sometimes don't like my face. I be wearing hats because I don't be having haircuts sometimes, and then sometimes my hairline be looking different on the camera. In real life, my hairline be looking a little better sometimes, but on the camera, I don't. I had no hat to really go with this fit today, so I'm like, you know what? Brush your joint, put a do-rag on, flatten that out, and that's what you have today here. So this is the Cool Hand Podcast, something you got to deal with. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Easy.